Hey everyone, welcome back to another devlog for Guardians of the Kingdom. Today I'm tackling a feature which I think will be super useful for players and especially beginners, adding in-game hints for when you're stuck on a tough level. But as with any good development story, things didn't exactly go smoothly. From missing counters to logic errors to some pretty tricky bugs, today's video is full of twists and turns. Stick around to see how I finally fixed everything and even added some exciting new functionality at the end. Oh, and we will wrap up by creating a brand new map for the game, so let's dive in. The main idea here is simple. If player loses a level a couple of times in a row, the game should step in with a helpful hint. You know, something to point them in the right direction, especially for new players who might be getting frustrated or confused. But of course, I quickly realized it wasn't as simple as it sounds. First, I needed to track how often players lose, win, or even just open a level. And then I had to save all that information. This means adding a new script to manage player progress. Seems straightforward, right? The first problem I hit was that the counter wasn't updating. It turned out that the level progress object wasn't being instantiated properly. When it was null, the game didn't know what to do, so I had to add a condition to create a new one if it didn't already exist. First problem solved. Next, I set up the logic for the hint system. It's supposed to show every 2 lost games. Simple enough, right? Well, here is where the real fun started. The first issue was that I reused some old methods from the game's saving system, but I forgot to change variable names. That tiny oversight broke everything. It even messed up the ability to open Season 1. Fixing it was as simple as writing the correct variable names, but it took me way too much time to realize that. It was also a good reminder that small mistakes can cause big headaches and that copy and paste can be dangerous. Then the logic for tracking which map the player has just played was a bit off. Specifically, the way I process map names wasn't implemented correctly and it didn't account for seasons, so hinting still wasn't working. To fix and future-proof the logic, I updated the code to pass the entire map name, including the season, and that cleaned up a lot of potential issues. So once the basic logic was fixed, I realized the hint still wasn't showing. After digging deeper, I found a couple more problems. First, I had assigned the wrong object to display the hint. Second, I hadn't even placed the hint object in the scene. Once I fixed those, it finally started working. To make the hints close, I added functionality for them to disappear after a few seconds. Then I thought about randomizing the frequency, maybe showing the hint every 2 or 4 lost games. But that ended up feeling too inconsistent and caused new issues. In the end, I stuck with the simple rule. If the total number of losses can be divided by 2, the hint shows up. There was still a small issue. The hint kept reappearing every time player opened Season 1. To fix it, I had to reset the hint state by deleting certain data of this functionality that was saved. Now, the hint only triggers when players return to the main menu after the losses, and the losses can be divided by 2.
Psych!
Well, almost. It can't be that easy. After resetting the hint system, so players wouldn't see the same hint repeatedly, the hints stopped showing at all. The problem? Player Progress Manager wasn't fully loading save data before I tried to read it. To fix it, I added a flag to indicate when the data processing was complete. That way the hint only shows after everything has loaded correctly. Finally, the system worked as intended, smooth and helpful for players. I added functionality to push save data to the cloud so it can be processed by the server. This makes it easier for me to track progress, and I will be able to use this data for useful reports on how players are progressing in the game. Now we can focus on the fun part, which is creating a new map. So here again, I'm using my tools to generate map with one click. Then I think about what kind of path do I want. And for this level, I wanted something relatively simple and short. And then I thought about adding some dead corner to confuse people, players. Then I drew the path and generated obstacles. I added some empty spaces for the towers, and I started to set up all the paths and then the actual waves. In this map I wanted players to start with Archer Tower, so the game only gives you 100 coins at the start of the level. I also decreased countdowns on this map. On every other map it's 5 seconds. Here I decreased it to 4 seconds. This makes the game a bit more fun, and I think at this stage I can actually use similar settings for the rest of the maps. And now it's time to set up all the waves. So I haven't done this actually in a while, but here each wave, it's mostly composed of one type of enemy. I did it for 2 reasons. The first one is to limit how much money players can earn. I didn't want them to earn too much. And the second reason was I was really able to tweak timings for each of the enemies. So without the right upgrades on your towers, it's really tricky to beat the first few waves. And here again I'm blurring out the screen because I don't want to influence your strategies. Initially the last 2 waves were way too difficult, so I had to ease them down a bit, but now when I think about it, I might have an idea for one of the last maps in this season. And one thing I realized when I was making this map, this level, is that I'm missing a few enemies. In future videos I will add new types of enemies, but I think new enemies will come on map 25. And that's it for today's devlog. Adding the hint system was definitely a journey, but I'm happy with how it turned out, especially that I should be able to spot where people are struggling, plus getting to design a new map is always the fun part of the game development. If you're playing Guardians of the Kingdom, let me know how the hint system works for you, or share any feedback you have on the game. I'm constantly looking for ways to make it better, so your input really matters. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future updates. I'll be back soon with more devlogs, more features and more problem solving. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.